So as you come to a comfortable seat, in my email, I did not get to express our theme. And so this week we're going back to that very first principle of the first limb of yoga as stated in the Yoga Sutras. And so the very first limb covers some concepts of how we treat ourselves and others. And so the very first part of that first limb is non-harm. And in our yoga practice, we get to really think about the ways in which we might create some sort of harm for ourselves first and start to recognize actions to ourselves. And that has to do with not just physical things in the body, but also it has to do with our thoughts. And so as we come to our seat here and as we find that tall spine, think physically how you can make sure that this is not a harmful position for yourself. How can you make it the least harmful possible? Maybe propping, maybe shifting how you're sitting. And then as you let your eyes close, tune into your breath and any maybe residual mental chatter that might be going on. And let's start off with this mantra or this affirmation to help us ground and be present of I am here, here I am. Inhaling, I am here. Exhale, here I am. With that invitation of any time your mind might go to a place of judgment, that maybe you shift it back to simply being present. I am here, here I am. With hands coming to heart center, let's lift the heart up even higher. On your exhale, bow toward your heart. Then softly opening your eyes and releasing your hands down. And we're going to shift right off into a standing position. So you can come up to the front of your mat. And from the front of your mat, make sure you have your blocks close by. And then take your feet a little wider than your hips for this first part of a little bit of a half salutation. We're going to move slowly through this. A little bend to your knees. Take your hands right to your hip creases and give a press into the upper thigh bone, pressing the thigh bones back. Inner thighs are rotating back, and then start to fold. And as you fold, your knees are bent, you're pushing sitting bones back, and then find maybe elbows resting against your thighs or hands resting against your thighs, whichever feels the best, for more of a modified version of forward fold here. Now, as you come to this modified version of forward fold, tilt your sitting bones up and extend your heart a little further forward. And then as you take a big exhale, lift and spread your toes and then push them down. Inhale, come up to your hands on your thighs and extend your heart further. And then exhale, find that modified place again. And that might be, again, hands or elbows at your thighs. Eyes can close here if you would like. Feel free to hang your head, letting your neck get long, and add a couple of nods and shakes. Ear to shoulder, ear to shoulder. And then bring your hands up to your hips. Lift up with shoulders and elbows and rise all the way up to stand. Inhale, stretch up overhead. Lift up with your gaze, maybe clasp your hands, maybe keep your arms separate. Take a big inhale and exhale, hands come to your heart. Inhale, stretch up overhead. Exhale, swan dive, wide arms, knees bent, fold over your legs. And this time you might have your hands come down to the floor or blocks or shins, wherever you need. Inhale, Lengthen, extend your heart, sitting bones lift. Exhale and fold. Hands to hips, press back on hips, lift up with shoulders and elbows and rise all the way up to stand. Reach arms wide, inhale, stretch up. Exhale, soft knees, fold over your legs. Inhale, lengthen, sitting bones are lifted, heart is forward. Exhale and fold. Hands to hips, pressing back on hips, roll shoulders up, elbows lift and rise. Now release the palms, turning them forward, lifting up and back with your shoulders. Mountain pose, feel free to close your eyes if that feels good or keep them open. Deep breath. As you sense your body in this space, take another moment to notice any thoughts or any body sensations. And inhale, stretch up. Exhale, fold over your legs. Inhale, lengthen part way. Exhale and fold. Now heel toe your feet back into inner hip distance. You can have hands on blocks or the floor. Step your right foot back into your lunge and pause here to extend your heart further forward and wrap back with your left hip. As you push down with your right toes and let your right upper thigh lift a little bit, take a deep breath. Inhale, step forward. Exhale, step the left foot back into your lunge. Pause and find that centering action with the hips. Right hip wraps back. Left toes push down. Left upper thigh lifts. Extend your ribs and collarbones more forward. Inhale, step forward. Exhale, right foot steps back into your lunge. This time, turn and plant your back heel so your foot's parallel to the back of the mat. Bring left elbow to your knee, right hand to your hip as you take that side angle pose variation. As you bend into your front knee and find an opening all the way from your glute. Notice where your shin is in space. Look down at your left shin and bend it to straight up and down. Bend your knee, not your shin. Take a big deep breath there. Turn more open with your heart. And then exhale, both hands come down to the front of your mat. You're tucking your back toes and stepping forward. Next, exhale, left foot steps back. Turn and plant your left foot so your heel's on the ground. Bring right elbow to your knee, left hand to your hip. And as you turn open to the left again, glance down and notice where your right shin is in space. Bend your knee, find that stacked place. Think of knee being able to help you press through the shin, through the arch of the foot. As you turn your belly and your heart more open, take a deep breath. Expand your ribs, expand and open the heart. Exhale, both hands come down to the front of your mat. You're tucking your back toes and stepping forward. Inhale and lengthen part way, send your sitting bones up. Exhale and fold as deeply as your body needs. And remember, you can always take a wider stance or bring elbows or hands up to your thighs. Hands to hips. Press back on hips, lift up with shoulders and elbows, and then rise all the way up to stand. And now as palms turn, as you open up through your shoulders, shoulder blades engaging, let your eyes close if that's comfortable and take a deep breath. Come back to that mantra of I am here, here I am. Inhaling, I am here. Exhaling, here I am. And then softly opening your eyes. And we're going to find our balance onto our left foot and touch our right toes behind us. Think of centering with the hips, drawing that right hip further forward. And then use your standing leg glute to push into the ground and lift your heart up higher. Now, tone your low belly and your ribs and begin to lift the inner thigh of the right leg rather. As you lift the inner thigh, it'll help keep your toes rotating more down, and then start to come to the variation here of Warrior 3 that feels best in your body. Take a big deep breath, and as you keep a little bend to your standing knee, squeeze your standing glute, push into the ground, move your ribs and collarbones more forward. Inhale upright and set your foot down. And now we're finding this opening in our mountain pose variation with our arms, palms forward, shoulders up and back, and taking this into our Warrior 3 for more of that opening place. So as you shift your weight over to your left foot, shift your weight over to your right foot, touch your left toes behind you, center with your hips, and then draw in with the belly, in with the ribs, but lift your shoulders further up and back. From this place, lift from the inner thigh on your left leg. Find the place that feels the best in your body, the tilt of the torso that works for you, but notice where your shoulders are in space. Keep them lifted and open. Tone the low belly and the ribs. Take one more big breath here. And inhale, rise all the way back upright. Bring your foot back down to the ground. Take a moment with your shoulders open. The back of your head is moving toward the wall behind you. Think of a little length through your upper palate. Inhale, stretch up. Exhale, fold over your legs. Inhale, lengthen part way. Send your sitting bones up. Exhale and fold. As you plant fingertips, step right foot back into your lunge, turn and plant your right heel. And now as we come into a triangle pose now, come up to the highest point of your blocks and work your right leg towards straight. Oh my goodness, sides are difficult. Left leg towards straight. So left hand to your block on the outside of your leg, right hand to your hip as you turn your belly and your heart open to the right side, all the way from your left glute. Turn your left knee a little bit more open to the pinky toe edge. As you turn your belly and your heart open, feel free to stretch up with your right arm if that feels good. Feel free to keep it at your low back or at your hip instead. But take a big breath and let your whole rib cage move and expand. On your exhale, both hands come down to your props. And now we're gonna bump our back foot forward and even bump it out to the right a little ways. As you turn your toes toward the front right corner of your mat, wrap back with your left hip, extend your heart further forward. From that place, if you would like, you can fold over your legs. If that makes your low back round, then maybe stay up a little bit higher here. But take a big, deep breath. And now extend your heart forward, bend into your front knee. You're tucking your back toes to step forward. Exhaling, step the left foot back into your lunge. And as you turn and plant your back heel, we're finding the right leg becoming as straight as it can be without locking your knee joint. Set your right hand underneath your shoulder with your block on the outside of your leg. Left hand to your hip. And as you begin to revolve, as you begin to turn open into your triangle pose, keep your knee on the right leg turning more toward the pinky edge of your foot, all the way from your glute. As you turn your heart, feel free to stretch up or keep your hand at your hip or your low back. Full, big, deep inhale and exhale. Notice the details of the pose without any kind of judgment, without any kind of statement about the pose. Just bring into mind the details. Exhaling, hands come down to your blocks. And then you're bumping your back foot forward, turning your toes toward the front left corner of your mat, turning your foot considerably forward, and even bringing it a little bit out to the left, so you're more hip distance here. And then wrap back with your left hip, Extend your heart further forward, send sitting bones up. From that place, if rounding from the upper back is there for you, then you might take a fold. If that just makes your low back round, lifted. Full big deep breath. Inhale, extend your heart forward, bend into your front knee, tuck your back toes, and this time we're going to step back, coming into a hands and knees position first, and then big toes together, knees wide. Settle hips back towards your heels into your child's pose. And as you find your child's pose, settling your head down, settling your hips, take a deep breath. Recognize any tensions that are present. Recognize any mental chatter. And now inhale, rise up to your hands and knees. Tabletop position. Wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. Rotate elbow pits forward and push. Find that expansion into the upper back. Tuck toes and lift hips. Downward facing dog pose. As you find your down dog, send your sitting bones up and then take a moment to pedal out to notice the hamstrings we've just stretched. Notice any tension or tightness. Notice what's going on in the low back. And then walk your way forward, coming into your forward fold at the front of your mat. Take an inhale and extend your heart. Exhale and fold. Inhale, extend your heart, bring your hands up above your knees, send your sitting bones up. Engage the glutes to walk your hands up your legs to rise all the way up. And as you come up to stand, we'll take one more balancing pose before we shift to the floor. Find your balance onto your left foot. And we're going to take the start of the same thing we did before, and then we'll turn it into a little bit more of a hip opener. So if you'd like to bring blocks underneath your hands, you can, or blocks in front of you for your hands, you can, or you can always use a table or a chair. So wrap, goodness, think of words, Dawn. So we're balancing on our left foot. Right foot is touching behind you. Wrap your right hip forward so your hips are coming a little bit more level. And with hands at your hips, press down onto your hips, lift up with your heart, and start to squeeze the elbows a little bit back behind you to help you open up here. Now, pull in with the belly and the ribs, and start to lift the inner thigh on the right leg as you begin to hinge from the hips to fold. As you come to that place for yourself, you're lifting elbows up, lifting shoulders up, engaging through the glutes, especially the standing glute. But as you lift your right leg, you might feel a little more squeeze through the lifted leg glute. Now, left fingertips come down to your block, right hand to your hip. If you want to do this with both hands down, you completely can, okay? But as you start to turn open with your right hip, turning more into that half moon place, engage through your foot behind you, and then notice the glute on your standing leg. Squeeze it and push through your standing leg. Now exhale, hands both come down to your blocks and foot comes back to the ground. Inhale, lengthen part way, coming into this halfway lift. Exhale and fold. And now bring hands to hips, press back on hips, lift up with shoulders and elbows to rise all the way up to stand. And now second side, we're finding our balance onto our left, oh boy, right foot, left toes touch behind you, and then center with your hips. Standing leg glute, give your knee a bend, squeeze your glute, push into the ground to stand taller. Hands are working to your low back here, so your elbows can hug back. You can be nice and open through the front of you. Tone, low belly and ribs. Now start to lift from the inner thigh on your back leg, and as you do so, you can begin to hinge. As you hinge, pause and make your back leg or your lifted leg strong. Squeeze your standing leg glute. You can begin to bring your right hand to a block or the floor, or you can bring both hands down if you would prefer. Now, as you press through your heel behind you on your lifted leg and open up with that hip, notice the standing leg glute. Give it a squeeze and push into the ground even more to open up. Exhale, both hands come down to your props. Foot comes back down to the ground. Inhale, lengthen part way, halfway lift. Exhale and fold. Plant hands and step back. Downward facing dog pose. Take a full breath. And now lower knees down, hips to heels. Take a child's pose. And then gently push yourself upright to your seat. And we're coming all the way down to sitting bones. And bringing our legs out in front of us, let's extend right leg forward, left foot into the side of your leg. Feel free to add a prop under hips or under your left knee. Move your sitting bones back and broad, and then press fingertips down into the ground where it's comfortable to find more lift and length, all the way from your pelvis, tilting forward. And then reach across with your left hand to your right thigh. Press down with your hands, find even more lift. Take an exhale, draw ribs in to help you twist. Inhale, longer. Exhale, if it feels good, you can work your way down the outside of your leg towards your foot. It can be anywhere in between from hip to ankle, or you can stay more upright. Take a big deep breath. Notice what would be the best place for you to be in your body right now. Full big deep inhale and exhale. Inhale, rise up and unwind. Extend the left leg, right foot into the side of your leg. Prop under your hip or under your knee. Move your sitting bones, and then use your hands wherever you need them to be to help you sit taller. Reach across with your right hand to your outside of your left thigh. Take an inhale here. Exhale, ribs in to help you twist. And from that place, you can take that folded twist if you would like. You can stay more upright or anywhere in between. Take a big deep breath. Inhale, unwind and come upright. And then bring both feet to the ground, and we're coming all the way down onto our backs. And from your back, as you bring knees up towards your chest, think about wide or narrow, whichever one feels the best in your body, to hug in and do a little compression. So as you exhale, you might squeeze in a little bit more. Rock a couple times side to side and let your low back lengthen. And now we'll give our low back muscles a little bit of love here with some breath work. So set your feet on the ground and drop your knees in together to touch. Hands come to your upper thighs right up at the hip crease, and you're pushing your thigh bones away until you feel a tilt of your pelvis. So your low back feels like it might lift a little. It might not actually lift. It might just be that intention rather than a lift. And that's okay. Take a full inhale and fill your low back muscles up. Have them expand toward the ground. Exhale and release that expansion. A couple more times here, letting your low back muscles expand on the inhale and release on the exhale. And it might be that you actually use a little muscle press to get that expansion to happen, sometimes before our muscles are used to doing that work as the breath helpers. That's what it takes. Inhale to expand and exhale to release. One more big breath here. And then you can release the hands, and we'll take a spinal twist. So if you would like to take your knees apart and feet wide for the spinal twist, you can, or you can bring knees narrow or even bring them up toward your chest to take legs over to the right side. I like to set a block or a prop underneath or in between my legs. Find where it is that it's the most compassionate for you right now. And then if it's in your practice, you'll open the arms up to a T or to a cactus, or just keep them by your sides. Take one more big breath on this side. And then gently back up to center. Again, you choose. You can always take this with feet on the ground and wide to drop your knees over to the left side. Or you can have your knees up close and more narrow to drop your knees over to the left. Prop as you need. Take some big breaths. Recognize whatever sensation, whatever's showing up. Allowing yourself the details versus a judgment. And now as you come back to center with your legs, start to work your way into a comfortable rest. Find your Shavasana that will help you be able to settle. Allowing yourself that time to take in the details of your practice. Bringing awareness back to your breath. Bring some gentle movements into your fingers and toes. As you're ready to, bend your knees, roll over to your side, and take a moment for a deep breath. Thoughtfully, gently press yourself back up to your seat. With hands coming together at heart center, take another moment to let your breath be full and deep. And come back to that mantra of I am here, here I am. Have a very peaceful, beautiful day.